I heard that voice as clear as day. I didn't see anybody, but I heard the voice. And I thought, I know I don't believe in ghosts, but I think this time I'm really convinced there is some type of other being out there.
I was sitting there and I was watching the movie and I caught something in my right peripheral. There was this woman. There was nothing for her to dance on, which is probably why she caught my eye, because she shouldn't have been there. She was dancing on air.
My assignment was to look after this lady. She was about maybe 84, 85 years old. On the outside, the house looked very nice. It was a nice neighborhood. You could see it was more like a seniors area. She was a widow, lived all by herself. And my job was just to go in there, make sure her surrounding was okay, make sure she was comfortable.
Every job has its problems, and usually there's some kind of handbook to help you deal with them. But what if you went to work and discovered a ghost? Now that's an occupational hazard that's not covered in any employee manual I've ever seen. Hi, I'm Lawrence Chow. Today on Ghostly Encounters, we'll hear two stories of ghosts in the workplace. We'll see how Rose Bryan and Barbara Dye weren't looking for ghosts, but while on the job, both women saw what they believe were phantoms. Their stories make me wonder, do we need to believe in the other side in order to experience it? Both Rose and Barbara think we do. But Rose was still a skeptic when she was working as a caregiver to the elderly. And she'll tell us, you never really believe it until it happens to you.
She was a widow. And my job was just to go in there, make sure her surrounding was okay. So I thought it was really just eerie. I noticed there was black drapes, long black drapes on the inside, and the lights were on in the house. And I was wondering, this is like 12 o'clock in the day, why does she have the lights on? Why is she wearing all black? She was wearing a black dress, black coat, and the drapes, like, as I said, were black. It just looked really eerie in the house to walk into. She wasn't smiling at me. She was either a Russian or Hungarian, but a strong accent when she spoke. And I said, hi, I'm Rose Bryan, and I'm here to help you for the next 4 hours. And she just kind of said, come on inside. Close the door shut. I said, okay, fine. We closed the door. And as I was in there, I began talking to her just to make myself feel comfortable. And I'm like, hi, how are you? What's your name? I know you don't work, but what do you do for spare time? Like, what do you do for fun? And she barely didn't really want to talk to me. And I just thought it was kind of strange. I followed behind her. And I said, well, how about if I sweep? How about if I clean? How about if I do something for you? I just wanted to occupy my time, take my mind off wondering why dark black drapes? Why this long black dress? There was no music on. There was no TV on. There was nothing. There's just a silence in her. She started to make dinner. And at first I thought, because I'm there for 4 hours and I'm really there to look after her, there wasn't much to do for her because she was really independent for her age and she was cooking for herself. And I said, okay, well, how about if I clean? How about if I dust? How about if I vacuum? Do something for you. And she said, sit down. And I thought, wow. So at first I sat down and I began talking to her, telling her that I was born in England and just giving her my experience, but she didn't really look interested in what I was saying. And I noticed I began asking her about her husband. And she had told me that he died 30 years ago. And I said, okay, well, I'm sorry to hear that. And I says, well, do you have any children? There was no children. And I said, okay, again, is there something I can do for you? She didn't want my help to cook. As she finished, she set the placemat for 2 people. Didn't want to say anything, but I knew I wasn't hungry and I wasn't about to eat there. So I kind of observed what she was doing. And that's when I said, I'm sorry, but I'm not hungry. I'm just here for a short time and I'll be leaving soon. She said, it's not for you. I said, well, who's it for? She said, it's for my husband. But then I'm thinking, but your husband died 30 years ago. And so she said, it's for him. I thought, could this really be? Could she be in her right frame of mind? And she talks normal, so I knew she wasn't senile. And I asked her, what can I do for you? She said, okay, fine, dust. But it was just weird. She wasn't hallucinating, but something was different. As I began dusting, I walked into the bedroom to dust the furniture. And I noticed that there was men's clothes on the bed. There was a man's suit with a shirt and tie and shoes and socks, like if somebody was about to come out the shower or come into the room and just get dressed. And I thought, okay, well, somebody's here, but I don't know who it is. But then when I realized it's her husband's clothes, and I thought, this is really freaky. This is just really, it's just too much. Don't want to be here. It was like if he wasn't dead, he was coming home, he was in the room, he was somewhere, but he wasn't far from her. It was just like if he was there. It was like if he wasn't dead, he was coming home, he was in the room, he was somewhere, but he wasn't far from her. I said to her, I still have another 2 hours. Is there something else I can do for you? I said, how about if I vacuum? She says, yes, vacuum. So I said, where's your vacuum? She says, it's in the cellar. And I remember it being pitch dark. I'm trying to find the light switch. I didn't know where to walk. I didn't know if things were in the way. Because normally when people say it's in the cellar, you think there's a whole bunch of stuff in the way, there's junk there. So I was kind of scared where to step, and she wasn't coming with me. So I thought, okay, let me just feel my way. So I literally actually felt my way around. Got the vacuum, came upstairs, started to vacuum. And I just thought, I really don't want to be here. So as I finished vacuuming, I went back downstairs to put the vacuum down. By the time I hit the bottom stairs, it was dark. I couldn't even find the light switch. I heard a voice.
What are you doing here? You don't belong here. You're a stranger.
It was a man's voice. It was like a Russian accent, like, what are you doing here? Very, very stern, it was just really, it was really eerie. And I just thought, wow, this must be her husband's voice.
What are you doing here? You don't belong here. You're a stranger.
And I said to the lady, I'm sorry, I have a major headache, I have a migraine, I need to go to the drugstore, I gotta get some aspirins, I just have to go. I didn't even stop to listen to her response. I walked out that door as fast as I got in. It was just beyond. And from the fact she said he died 30 years ago, and just checking out the house, being there for it was about 2.5 hours, I just realized nobody else could be in the house. Because I went into every room, cleaned every room, and I never saw nobody there. But just seeing the suit on the bed, I realized she still invites a spirit around her. So his spirit never did go. His body did, but his spirit was always there. And I think if you always invite these type of spirits, they'll always linger around you. It was just very eerie, and I just didn't want to be there because I knew I wasn't in control of a situation. And it's hard to know that you're somewhere where you're not in control of a situation. And I think the best thing to do is just get out. I hear people tell me stories, but this was very scary because I thought, here I am for the first time, I'm experiencing this for myself. When I got out, I phoned my boss. And he said, Rose, you know what? You were my last resort. There was 2 other ladies that we sent in before you, and they had a similar experience, and they thought they are not going back again. So I thought, wow, really freaky. You never believe something until it really happens to you. Now when people literally tell me, Rose, I've actually seen a ghost or heard a ghost or something of that nature, I don't laugh at them. I don't just shrug it off and say, please, come on. I sit down and I really do listen. I really didn't believe in ghosts. But after that experience and then listening to the other ladies tell me theirs, I thought, yes, there's something's different. Something's out there.
Rose wasn't the only person who thinks she ran into a ghost in that house. Her boss told her that many other caregivers had the same complaint. But unlike the others, she believes she knows why the ghost is still there. Rose is convinced that the elderly woman is responsible for the lingering spirit of her dead husband, and that sadly, he may well be her only companion. Rose challenges us to think about the role we play in such encounters. Her story suggests that if spirits come from the other side, it may be because we invite them into our world. Our next subject, Barbara Dye, didn't invite her ghost, but when she thought she saw one, she stayed to see what happened next.
I was born during the war in England, so the remnants of that Second World War were all around me, and there was always a lot of talk about restless spirits, because there were people who had been literally buried under that rubble. So there was a lot of talk about that. So it wasn't something that was really paranormal to me. It was part of life.
Barbara Dye is an inspiring feminist. In the 1960s, she was frustrated by sexism and discrimination in the workplace, and so she chose to beat the men at their own game through an unusual line of theatrical work as a burlesque dancer. I was interested to learn that when a theater is empty, a single stage light is always left on. This is called the ghost light. Its sole purpose is to keep ghosts away from the darkened theater. However, as Barbara would tell you, the ghost light doesn't always work.
I ended up burning my bra on University Avenue in 1962. The workplace was quite difficult, so I was thinking to myself, I want to do something else. So I went searching for a job where I could work different hours, noon to 8, whatever. So, of course, in those days, there were many, many, many theaters in Toronto, and one of them, the one that was closest to my house, was the Victory Theatre. So I was working there as a candy girl about a year, and I'm watching these girls, and I'm looking at them and thinking, I can do that. Let me get this right. I think as a candy girl, I made, oh God, it was a pittance. $40 a week, I'm thinking, something like that. And these girls were making $250, and I had a child to support at this point. In those days, there may have been safety net for single mother. If there were, I didn't know about them. So the next time an amateur show came up, I entered it and won. So after that, I didn't look back. I just started dancing. I, got the money together to buy costumes and started dancing. It was in '63, I remember. It was November '63 because it was the week after Kennedy was killed. And everybody remembers that, right? We had a movie there after the first show, and I was just working there that week as a feature. And I said, I'm going to watch a movie. Looks good. So I went and sat in the very front row so I wouldn't be perceived by the clientele. So I was sitting there and I was watching the movie, and I caught something in my right peripheral here, and I looked like this, and then I looked again. There was this woman, and she was just swaying to the music, just in her own little world, and I just kept looking at her. There was nothing for her to dance on, which is probably why she caught my eye, because she shouldn't have been there. She was dancing on air. She was dancing. There was some music playing in the movie, and she was dancing to it. And I'm looking at her, and I'm going, I don't know who this is. And even if I did, what is she dancing on? There was nothing there for her to stand on. She was over the exit. So there's the exit door with the curtains and the archways with all that stuff. And from there was the underside of the loge, the box. So there was nothing for her to dance on. She wasn't looking at the screen. I couldn't see her really looking at anything. It was like if I were in my living room and something came on that I liked, and I just start, rocking to it in my own world. That's where she was. She was in her own world, but stuck there, I think. And I just kept looking at her and looking at her. I tried to be absolutely still. Then it occurred to me, like, Why aren't all these people reacting? And I'm looking around and no. The clientele didn't react to her at all. Maybe they didn't see her? I mean, does that happen in ghostly encounters? Like one person sees a ghost and other people don't? I guess I felt privileged. So I thought, she's letting me see her. I had grown up feeling that the paranormal was just part of normal everyday life. So I wasn't freaked out. I was more like, holy cow. It was like seeing, well, if I saw Willie Nelson in the bay, okay, kind of like that, like, oh my God. But she just looked real. That's what blew me away, because whenever I'd heard of ghosts, I expect ghosts to look ghostly. But she didn't. She looked like a real woman dancing. And then she just receded. Think of Beam Me Up, Scotty on Star Trek, like that, literally. She just kind of went away, not disappeared all at once, but just faded. And I just sat there and I kept looking. So finally I went up to the office and told them. And they said, oh yeah, we know about her. They said, I don't know how true it is. I mean, you know how rumors get started. You don't know what basis in fact they have. They had said that someone had been stabbed and killed at one point in a dressing room in that theater, and they figured it was her. But they knew all about her. I didn't really see this girl ghost anyway having any malice towards me, because I was feeling if she had malice towards me, she wouldn't have let me see her. That's what I was feeling. Because I was the only one that saw her dancing. Everyone else saw her, you know, on the stairs or sitting in the dressing room, brushing her hair, this kind of stuff. But no one had seen her dancing except me. I asked the custodian. So I said, well, are any more ghosts in here? He said, well, you want to hang around after and see? Okay, so there we are. All the lights are out in the theater except this one backlight on the stage. So we sat there, and we sat there for about 5 minutes, very, very quietly. And then as we sat there, we heard this noise that sounded like a blue jay. You know that, like a funny electronic sound that's just odd? And we go, what is that? And then we saw the shape of a little man, 5'3", maybe 5'4" tops, and it was in a silhouette. It wasn't the full body, but it was like a cardboard cutout in that sense. There was no depth to it, but he was wearing a top hat, and he was standing like this with a cane. And he was just standing there, peering at us like this. And we were just literally holding our breaths. And he was just looking at us. And I tried to talk to him, but he just faded out again. And it was the same funny electronic noise again, like zzz, and he was gone. And then after he got, I had forgotten this before. After he gone, there was like this little, it was more like air in front of a light, like that, and then was over. And you definitely had the feeling he was gone, back to the other dimension or wherever, but he was gone. And Harry had never seen him before at all. He had no idea, because he had seen numerous ghosts around there, and he had waited because I was interested. Like everybody else was scared. I said, no, I want to see, right? So, but I don't know who he was, and Harry had no idea. He had no memories. It could have even been, I believe there was vaudeville in that theater, so now we're going back to 20s, so it could have been someone from then with the top hat and the cane. It wasn't something that was like scary for me at all. It was interesting and fun, and I felt like so privileged to have seen this. I think it just reinforced the feelings I already had, that the paranormal was just, you know, part of normal life, because my dad, my adopted dad, believed strongly in it. He believed that he had seen his mother at the foot of his bed the night she died. He woke up and his mother was standing at the end of the bed and said to him, "Goodbye, Bill." And then when he got up in the morning, of course, there was no phone calls in those days. Someone came over and said, "Oh, your mother's died." He said, "Yes, I know."
Barbara thinks her female ghost chose to appear while dancing, and only to her. Could this apparition have known that Barbara would empathize with her? The belief that ghosts come without invitation is common. This is different from Rose's belief that human intervention causes spirit to linger. I found it interesting that Barbara's ghost seemed able to respond to sound from our world, dancing to music from the film being shown. On the flip side, Rose tells of a ghost that could create sound in this world, the man's voice she heard in the basement. Rose was terrified by her ghost story. Barbara was delighted by hers. Different experiences led to different points of view, but one thing is the same. Both women are now firm believers in another world.
And I thought, what? Could ghosts really exist? But I thought they do. They really do exist.
Like, who are we to say anyway that people just go into the ground and that's it? It's all over? I don't think so.